Hey everybody, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with John Blake, and we're going to be having a bit of a chat today about his personal journey about men and resilience and so forth. So I'm going to get you, John, if you can, just to kick off. Tell me a little bit about. I mean, I know your story, but I want viewers to know a little bit about your story, because when you first told me, I was like, wow.
Cool. So look, it was about, well, it's been 10 years now.
Yeah.
I am, to give you some sort of context, I was married to a lady who I'd been with for 8 years,
Yeah.
and we had our second child when our daughter was 2.5. And our second child was a boy, and he came into the world like a normal, boy comes into the world. All seemed pretty under control.
Yeah.
And then 6 weeks after, my wife started to complain of sore back, and nothing seemed to help. So, she had never really taken a lot of painkillers. She
Yeah.
was taking, a number of painkillers. Nothing was working. She'd been to see a physio, that didn't work. She went to see a chiro, that wasn't working. It's just nothing seemed to be working. We just thought it was because he was such a big baby, and that often women, when they breastfeed, because it's this constant sort of, bending over, it can cause a similar type pain. And so eventually we were just, ticking off the list of what it might be, and it wasn't. And then in the end, she went and got a scan, and the scan revealed dark, um, you know, uh, on the actual X-rays. The
Yeah.
scan revealed these dark spots, and she had them on her liver, spine, I think her kidneys, and maybe might have had a couple on her lungs. And as it turns out, they were melanomas. And what had happened is that 2.5 years prior, she had had a melanoma removed from her back and sent it off, and it came back as malignant. And so then she went back and they took a wider section,
Yes.
said that it was all clear and that they'd got it all. And so we hadn't really worried too much about it. She was getting skin checks, she was staying out of the sun.
Yeah.
She was 32. Well, she
Yeah.
was 31 when she had the mole removed.
Yeah.
And then so comes back, and she has been diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma and has been given between 6 and 9 months to live.
Yeah.
And so what happened was that she actually died 9 weeks later. And so to put it in context, my son was 5 months old. My daughter was 2.5. And it left me in a situation where, wow, I've got to look after these two kids.
Yeah.
And, we're lucky enough to be living close to my wife's parents, and she had sisters, so they were certainly really helpful. And
Yeah.
my mum was helpful, so the family really rallied
Yeah. Yeah.
and provided a lot of support,
Yeah.
which was, I'm so grateful for and very happy, about. So there was that, and then at the same time, because I'm a coach, consultant, work with companies primarily who want to increase their sales and profits. We work on sales strategy,
Yes.
and I had a business partner, and we'd been doing that together for 7 years, and we had really successful consulting practice. And some stuff happened in his life, in his family as well. And so at the same time, he started to think that I was not going to be working.
Yeah.
And what had happened was that conventional medicine had said, there was like a trial that we thought that my wife was going to be able to get on.
Yeah.
And after a whole bunch of tests, not the least of which was them discovering that she also had tumours in her brain, they said, no, you won't qualify for this trial because this trial, the medicine doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier. So, so it was like, all this hope, all this hope, all this hope, and then, nah, sorry, you don't qualify for the trial. We're not going to give you this drug. And then we were like, well, what do we do? And so conventional medicine basically just put their hands up and said, sorry, not much else we can do. So what we did is we put her on this alternative treatment regime, which was ridiculously expensive. So for me not to work was not an option. I had to work to be able to, not only to pay my, my mortgage and two children that were relying on me, and just all the existing expenses, but plus this massive expense for all this alternative medicine. So not working for me wasn't an option, but my business partner at the time got it in his head that I wasn't going to be working, and so he was putting pressure on me to to restructure the business. So long story short, we ended up dissolving the business. So within 14 weeks, I had wife diagnosed as terminal and die at 14-week period. I had a business partner that I ended up going into a 3-month legal dispute with to try and dissolve the partnership that we had. I had to move my family from Margaret River to Perth, or to Perth, and I had to move my office from Margaret River to Perth as well. So all this in a 14-week period, plus I've got to organise to have the kids, taken care of, because the parents were, jumping in and taking care of a lot of it. But I needed to get a nanny for my son because he was an infant. Could not bring myself to put him into full-time daycare. There was just no way in the world. And care for my daughter, and so it was just this incredible shitstorm. It was like nothing I've ever experienced before, and
also you were, being supportive of your wife during that time, because how devastating for her to find this out, right? To not be able to watch her children grow up and just wondering, afraid for herself and afraid for what was ahead, right?
Yeah, it was heavy, and there was not only the emotional impact of knowing that you're going to die, but there was also the fact that she had tumours in her brain, so they were affecting, so it was already an emotional nightmare in terms of having to face the reality that you're actually not going to be around. But then there was also the mental dysfunction of having tumours that are essentially attacking your brain. So there was some additional neurosis that we were dealing with in terms of her actual mental well-being from a clinical perspective, not just from an emotional perspective. So it was just this incredible. It was just an incredible convergence of absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. And so, thankfully, 10 years, fast forward 10 years down the track, I'm married, the kids have got a wonderful mum, things have worked out great. We've certainly come out the other end of it. It's not certainly without its challenges, but life isn't without its challenges.
Yes. Yeah.
But what I guess what I learned, and the reason, that I'm here, is that I had a number of things that, that I did over that time, which I realized that I was, without sort of blowing my own trumpet, that I was fairly uniquely placed to be able to deal with. And I remember my cousin at the time, who's quite a spiritual guy. He speaks fluent Japanese, and he is a Tai Chi instructor, and he's just an incredibly spiritual person. And we were talking about it, and he said to me, "So of all the people that you know in this world, who do you know that would be better equipped to deal with this than you?
Yeah.
And I said, no, can't think of anyone. And he said, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I said, that's why it's happening to you, is
Yeah.
because you have got the, the ability, the wherewithal, the coping skills, whatever you want to talk about,
Yeah.
to get your head around it. So I guess I realised that there were some things that I could share that might be useful to other people that are going through some similar things.
Yes.
I certainly wouldn't wish what happened to me onto anyone. And I've written about it, and I wrote a blog. You've read the blog.
Yes.
We'll give the listeners the blog. They can go and check it out. And I've had fantastic feedback on it. And I haven't really talked much about it other than writing about it and sending it through to some people that I could see that were going through some stuff. But I just realised that when you're going through that, you're looking for answers, and I just realised that my journey and how some of the things I did to limit the impact on me can help other people that might be going through the same thing.
Yeah. And so when I know people listening to this are just going to go, holy crap, that's a lot. And so, what are some of those things that helped you? Because that's, as said, that's a lot to deal with, like emotionally, mentally, physically, because, that's personal, business. It's like all across the board, right?
Yeah. It really, they talk about the top 3 most stressful things that can happen in your life. So, trouble with your spouse, moving house,
Yes.
and financial trouble.
All of it, yeah.
And so it was the trifecta.
Yeah.
It really was. So some of those things, I made a list.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you did.
Yeah. So
I love that.
The main thing, I guess, and this might not necessarily be true for everybody. And look, one of the other things I realised is, and I've since had other people, because you don't get to 50, without having experienced other people with drama and trauma in their life as well.
Yes.
But one of the things that I've realised, and I guess this is a bit of a caveat, for what I'm about to share, is that everybody has their own unique way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
And so this is really just what I did, but it's by no means a one size fits all, but it certainly worked for me.
Yeah.
So even if you were just to use a bit of it, then I think it could be certainly useful.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote about it about a year after it all happened. I wrote about it, which in retrospect, that was probably a little bit premature. I don't think I really came out the other end of it until about 5 years later.
Yes.
I think if you had asked me, at the 3-year mark, if you had said to me, "Oh, how you going? Are you over it?" I would have gone, "Yeah." But it wasn't until I got to 5 years that I went, "Okay, I actually wasn't over it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
there was still some stuff, that I needed to process to see it. So, so I made a list of essentially 15 things.
Awesome.
So the first one is deal with the reality of what's happening.
Yeah. That's a toughie, right?
That's the hardest bit.
Yeah.
And that's why it's step number 1, because it's the hardest one. And unless you get past that, then it's really difficult to move on to the next step. So there's that whole thing, where it's like denial, is it denial, anger,
grief.
it's that cycle, and I don't know exactly what the syntax is, but I think it's denial, anger. It's the grief process, but it's an actual model.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Denial, anger, blame. Anyway, it's this process that people go through,
Yes.
and then the end is like, new world view.
Yes.
But regardless, it's like you've got to try and fast track that bit.
Yeah.
So you got to deal with what's happening. So my thing was, I just started this mantra in my head, and the mantra was, you are going to be responsible for looking after these two kids for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's on you, and no one else. You can't rely on anyone else. And there's going to be people that helped. And I was super fortunate to have people around me that were happy to help. But at the end of the day, at 6 o'clock, when all the relatives go home and the nannies have gone home and all the rest of it, you're it.
Yeah.
So, that was the thing. It was like, you are going to be responsible for bringing out these kids for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
Because the wife was gone. There was no one else, grandparents, great, awesome, brilliant, stoked, grateful, everything. But at the end of the day, that's the bit I had to get my head around.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Deal with it. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
Get your mind on the job. This is what's,
exactly.
You better just to get used to it. You better just to like it, do what you've got to do, because this is what's happening.
Yeah, that's it. Because you can't make any forward moving decisions for yourself if you're not prepared to accept where you're at.
And that was the other thing. Like in that moment, there was a couple of things. The first one was I stopped planning.
Yeah.
Like I work in this business where I'm helping people to plan, the next 12, 18, 36 months.
Yeah.
Business. And I couldn't tell you what was happening further than about 2 days in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like everything was just one day at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Which the negative of that is, you're just constantly, dealing with whatever's in front of you.
Yeah.
But there's actually a positive in that as well.
I was going to say there is a big positive in that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're in the moment,
Yes, that's it. You're present, right?
Constantly in the moment, and along with that, which I didn't expect, came this strength.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like this kind of semi superpower thing that came to me, which I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
But it was almost like it was just like this little injection of resilience, of strength, of it was very, very unusual, and like I don't drink a lot, I wasn't, leaning on any particular vice. I actually haven't drunk for about 3 years, over 3 years, but I've never been a big drinker, and I don't, it's not like I sort of, go out and lean on any other particular vice that might be available to people when they go out. So, I was very present to what was happening.
Yes.
And so, so deal with the reality of what's happening. That's step number one. Really tough. Even tougher is the step number two, which is work out what's great about it.
Yes.
And people might listen to that or hear that and go, or see that and go, like, what?
Yeah.
Your wife just died. The mother of your kids just died.
Yeah.
So work out what's great about it. And that's probably, as hard, if not harder than step number one, which is deal with the reality of what's happening.
Yeah.
Work out what's great about it. And I tell you what, it took me ages to work out what's great about it.
Yeah.
And even it was just that, that was even harder. You got to stick with it and go, what's great about it? So what I came up with was, and it took me ages, was I am going to have a bigger say into how my kids turn out than what I would have if my wife was still around.
Yeah.
Because you know, our family structure was more of a traditional one.
Yeah.
You know, where my wife was a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
She was looking after the kids, doing all the housework. I was away a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I was on the East Coast doing coaching and training and speaking engagements, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I worked out that was great about it was that I was going to have a bigger say
Yeah.
into how my kids turned out. I was going to
You
be
would be more present, physically involved, and emotionally involved as well, right? Because it's just a whole different level of participation in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I was going to have a bigger,
Yeah.
way bigger,
Yeah.
you know, and in retrospect, like the connection I have with my daughter is incredible.
Yeah.
Because when she found out, you know, when we told her, she was, you know, she wasn't a baby. And thankfully, I think if she had been older, it would have been even more chaotic. But because of the age that she was old enough, you know, to get the loss, and
Yeah.
it was devastating. And I, you know, I ended up getting coaching from a child trauma psychologist on how to actually tell her.
Yes. Yeah. Of course.
It
Yeah.
was like, because you know, it was really useful. Like, you know, it was like I knew exactly what to say,
Yeah.
so that she at the age of 2.5 would understand what was, you know, what was going on. Um, but because of the journey that we went through, getting our head around, you know, dealing with life after all of that, like the connection I have with her is incredible. Which at the time I would not have really been able to say.
Yeah.
But it probably falls under the broader subject of I'm going to have, you know, I'm going to be more involved
Yeah.
with the kids. So that's step number 2. I can't say that there was too much more that I came up with in terms of what was great about it.
Yeah.
You know, I guess, you know, one of the other things that was great is like, hey, it's a blank slate. You know, this is my opportunity to reassess everything, which is what I did.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was a part of step 3, which was gather information and look really hard at your options.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so I'm absolutely at a crossroads here, and
Yeah.
I can go in all sorts of different directions, and it's like that classic thing. I don't know, it's a line in Fight Club where he says it's only after you've lost everything that you're free to do anything.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, that was totally true for that situation. It's like, okay, well, I've lost everything, but
Yeah.
now it's a blank slate.
Yes.
I can move in whatever direction I want to move in. Now I chose to stay in the business,
Yes.
and that came because I really love it, and as it turns out, it's the perfect business for a single parent
Yeah.
widower with 2 young children.
Yeah.
And I just rejigged what the business was going to look like.
Yeah.
I had I just changed it to suit my particular set of circumstances.
Yes.
But all that also related to where I was going to live, you know, how, you know, what I was going to do in terms of getting the kids looked after, you know, all that. So, you know, gather as much information as you can, look hard at all your options.
Yes.
Number 4, know that you can emerge better for the journey, right? So if you know that you can emerge better through having experienced what it is that you experienced,
Yeah.
then that's an empowering thought.
Yeah. Yes.
So the opposite of that is letting what has happened to you turn you into a bitter,
Yeah.
you know,
Which is very easy to do, right?
so easy.
Yeah.
And it's so crucial, right? So it's like, you know, you can be at the cause or you can be at the effect.
Yeah.
You know, so what's happened to you, and you can choose to either be at the cause of that or at the effect of that. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to believe and actually emerge and become a better human as a result of what's happened here.
Yeah.
And You know, even though, yeah, I mean, at the time, I absolutely believed that, and I think it's come true. You know, because you know, whatever it is that you believe, then that's typically what you will sort of grow into.
Yeah.
So, that I think that was important. You know,
Yeah.
know that whatever's happening here, you know, it's that classic. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever's happening here, I can use this to become a better version of me,
Yes.
a more resilient version of me.
Yes.
And I think it's true because, you know, drama, you know, things that many people would see as being really dramatic, you know, sometimes things happen today
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
bad. So know you can emerge better the journey, lock into a course of action and hold your line. So once you've actually worked out what you want to do, you know, because you've got all this new freedom, you can take any direction that you want, go in that direction,
Yeah.
and hold your line. Like, you know, you've done the hard work, you've worked out where you want to go, you looked at all your options, you've chosen an option, go in that direction.
Yeah.
You're going to have other people that are going to be advising you and saying what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But that's the other thing that, you know, this strength gives you is that purpose of mind, is to say,
Yeah.
you know, thanks so much for your feedback, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It actually gives you that you know, that strength of purpose. You know, that all comes with the
Yes.
territory.
And you're able to set boundaries too.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Seek help from people. So,
Yeah.
you know, I could feel myself on a couple of occasions. Well, I actually went and saw I have a psych that I go and see. I went and saw him twice before my wife passed away, and I went and saw him twice after. And I think the second time that I saw him after she passed away was at a time where I could sort of feel myself sliding into some, you know, the start of what I believe is some depression.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I need to go and see him.
Yeah.
And I was able to sort of, you know, kick out of that.
Yeah.
That was good. You know, so seek help from people, you know. The other one is say yes to all offers. Right? Someone says, oh, you know, if I can do anything, you know, to help you, because you get a lot, and especially when you're a guy,
Yeah.
you know, because when you're a guy in that situation, everyone thinks guys are hopeless, which is to a large extent, you know, fairly well founded. You know what I mean? Like if a wife loses a husband, it's like, oh, she'll be all right, she'll cope. You know, but if a husband loses his wife, everyone, you know, just assumes that the husband's totally hopeless. And so you tend to get a lot more offers for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my thing was like, I would say yes to all offers for help.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd say, oh, you know, if I can do anything, you know, just let me know. So, well, that'd be fantastic. You know,
Yeah.
if I can look after the kids for you, you know, just let me know. Thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But I'd take them all up on it. Ultimately,
Yes.
no. But I'd say yes to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say thank you so much for offering.
Yeah.
I might take you up on that. You know.
Yeah.
Number 8, simplify your life. So, you know, anything that's superfluous, that's just, and simplifying your life could be, you know, arm's lengthing negative people. It could be getting rid of financial things that are you know, that are dragging you down a bit. You know, you've got this opportunity to be able to clear stuff out, and I did that. I you know, sold some properties that I had that I needed to sell. You know, I just really streamlined a lot of stuff. Number 9, assume an identity avatar. So I just found I'm into comics and art and, you know, sort of surrealist artwork and stuff. And and you know, when you give people the URL where they can check it out, I'll see it.
Yeah.
It's,
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But I'm into that, so.
Yeah. So I've actually got that particular image. It's Spawn, but it's a particular. So Spawn's a comic character, and it's a particular poster. And I've got the poster block mounted, and it's, you know, it's just something that I just looked at, and I just felt like that was me. You know, I had the armor on, and I was, you know, dealing with stuff. Number 10, assume a situation metaphor. So I'm a surfer. I have a very close affinity with the ocean, and so
Yeah.
my situation metaphor was, hey, it's a storm. And what do we know about storms? When they pass through,
Yeah.
there's blue water
Yeah.
and there's sunshine.
Yeah.
So all things will pass. And at the other end, once you pop out, there's typically something that's better.
Yes.
And the other one is
if you allow it to be.
Yes, correct. If you allow it to be, yeah. And if you do the other steps in the right way, you should be in good shape for that. But the other really cool thing that I learned years ago was crisis point. Right. So crisis point is just when you feel that things couldn't possibly get worse.
Yeah.
They start getting better.
Yeah.
And maybe just at the point where you feel that things couldn't possibly get worse, something else will happen.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe that'll be even worse than the point that you thought that things couldn't possibly get worse.
Yeah.
And then something else might happen on top of that.
Yeah.
But after that point, because you'll realize that, okay, that was crisis point. Things could not possibly get any worse.
Yeah.
Right now. Once you reach crisis point, then things start getting better.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you see the clarity of it, right?
What's that?
You see the clarity of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So situation metaphor, look for the humor in what's happening. If you can.
Yeah.
Look for the humor in what's happening. Like you've got to have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
There's humor everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, it might be black humor.
Yeah.
But there's humor everywhere.
But even just having a laugh at yourself, even, you know, when you do things that you sort of just go, what the hell was I thinking? Or just even small things like that help, right? Because they kind of lighten it up, whether that be with friends or laughing at yourself or a situation or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So look at the humor in what's happening. Know that we are never sent a challenge that we can't deal with.
Yeah.
You will only be sent a challenge that you actually can deal with.
Yeah.
And you might not be able to deal with it in the moment.
Yeah.
But you will be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like women who have triplets.
Yeah.
You don't get sent triplets unless and you're the type of mum that could deal with 3 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of the same age.
Yeah.
So the universe has an interesting way of selecting, who it gives challenges to.
Yeah.
Reassess what's important to you.
Yeah.
Reassess what's important to you. What do I love doing? And then 14 is very similar to that. It's like, look after yourself and seek regular solitude in the things that you love.
Yes.
So for me, it was making sure that I had time to go surfing, and that has not ended.
But that's a good thing, right? Because that helps bring peace to you, and that's important that you are able to have that time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So people talk about meditation. And I actually heard Jocko Willink say the same thing. He's like, I don't meditate, but I go surfing.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like whatever you're doing.
That's true for lots of guys and some chicks too. But I noticed for a lot of guys that going surfing is very meditative for them, and it's what they need, right? And
they're using it to treat people with PTSD.
Yeah.
It's actually become a legitimate treatment for.
Yes. That makes sense. Yeah.
Military personnel with PTSD.
Yeah.
And then the last one is trust your gut.
Yeah.
And all the stuff, it fine tunes all of that.
Yeah.
Your intuition, your clarity on the right path, your gut feeling on things, all of that gets fine tuned. The trauma.
Yeah.
the trauma or the drama or whatever you want to call it, it all heightens that. There's a
Yeah.
primal thing that happens that
Yeah.
I never would have guessed would have been the case. But
Yes.
all these things, and you've just got to be open to it, and be ready to receive it, I guess, without
Yes.
sounding too woo-woo.
Yeah. And moving forward, I suppose, obviously you've remarried, right? And, when you're sort of like moving through this process, and then you have these feelings of like, what will my future hold? Will I be able to find, someone who will be like an incredible mum to my children and all these things, and then finding that person and going through that process as well. Like, tell us a little bit about that, because obviously that's
Well,
like a whole another part of the journey, right?
absolutely. Well, the whole thing was because my reality was it's just me and these kids. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I'd conditioned myself. So I was like, that's me for the rest of my life. It's me and these kids.
yeah,
Because that was the only thing that I could assume. I couldn't assume that I was going to meet somebody.
yeah,
I certainly couldn't assume that I was going to meet somebody that I would want to spend the rest of my life with, and that would be prepared to take on the responsibility of bringing up two children.
yes,
So my reality at that point was, that's it.
yeah,
It's me and them.
yeah,
And I got comfortable with that.
yeah,
And I guess that's the point where you would probably, because you can't get enough of what you don't want,
yes,
right? So I didn't want to meet someone.
yeah,
I certainly wanted companionship,
yeah,
but I wasn't making the assumption that I was going to meet somebody and that they
yeah,
were going to take on all the stuff that that I had. So I bought a house that did not allow the space for, it was just, I bought the house purposely to house me and
yeah,
the two.
yeah,
And so when I actually did meet someone, it was, it worked, but it wasn't really a house that you
no,
bought,
no,
with the idea that you're going to have a partner move in
yeah,
and continue on in that regard. But I think, having dealt with the reality of it's just me and these kids forever,
yeah,
um, and you can't get enough of what you don't want. It's like when you're single, it's really only in the moment where you think, oh, I'm happy when this is cool. If I'm single like this for the rest of my life, I'm cool.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
It's the moment you meet someone,
yeah, yes, yeah,
right where you get used to really enjoying being single
yeah.
is when someone comes along and stuffs it up.
Throws a spanner in the works, you reckon?
You can't get enough of what you don't want.
Yeah, yeah,
You try to give up cigarettes, there'll be cigarettes everywhere.
yeah, yeah,
Try to give up drinking, every bastard's going to offer you a beer.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Try to give up chocolate,
yeah,
chocolate everywhere.
yeah. Did you at all like, um, because I mean, obviously you've done heaps of internal work, right? So, and had a lot of personal growth before that, and then obviously a shitload during that
Yeah.
process. And so, did you have any fears at all about, like starting off with someone new, what that would look like, or feelings about that, or?
Well, I was clear on what I didn't want.
Yeah,
And when I met my wife, that we've been together now for 7 years, and she said to me, and this may or may not be considered selfish, but when we met, she was 42 and she didn't have kids and
yeah,
she hadn't been married. And she said to me, so theoretically, hypothetically, if you met someone and they didn't have kids and they wanted to have a kid, would you have children with them?
Yeah.
And I said, fuck no.
At least you're honest.
Because, you know, my situation and circumstances, you know, I think that's a fairly predictable and understandable response.
It is.
You know?
I was just about to say that it is, because, you know, look what you've been through, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, the last woman that I was with that wanted to have kids checked out.
Yeah.
Left me with them. So
Yeah.
I certainly don't want any more. You know,
Yeah.
this one's up is
Yeah.
going to be challenge enough on its own.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's, you know, it's I'm very lucky. I've met a unicorn, you know, who didn't want to have kids. She'd made a decision not to have kids.
Yeah.
I think if I had had one, she probably would have tried to talk me into having another one, in which case I probably would have said yes.
Yeah.
But you know, the kids love her and she loves them, and it works.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's actually really quite hard to meet a woman who's 42 or 43 that hasn't been married, that doesn't have kids.
Yes.
That doesn't actually want them. You know,
Yeah.
most women have got children by that stage.
Yes. You know? Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And how did the kids go with introducing her, your new partner, you know, into their lives, right? Because then that was, I mean, they were so young when their mum passed away. So then they were just used to you being there and their other family members and other support.
Yeah, well, look, they fell in love with it straight away. But, you know, like I said, it hasn't been without its challenges, because it's not easy bringing up two kids that aren't yours.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, your level of tolerance is different. You know,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
If they're your kids, you know, there's a level of tolerance there. But if they're not, then there's you know, there's another level of tolerance.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that I sort of did all the things that I did, and that it's all worked out. And I have another friend who went through a very similar thing. His kids were a bit older than mine.
Yeah.
And he's just remarried.
Yeah.
And you know, I caught up with him and his new wife the other day, you know, which was really interesting, because you know, I'm sure he had talked to her about me.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'd been sort of part of his journey in terms of him getting around the loss of his wife, who also died from cancer when she was very young.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting to have sort of gone full circle on that whole process, not just for me, but then seeing him in his journey and how he sort of popped out the other end.
When he was going through that and you were helping him with that, did that bring up any, you know, what kind of feelings did that bring up for you? Because, I mean, obviously you've done sort of a lot of healing and so forth, but also, like, it would take you back to moments when you remember certain things happening. And
yeah, look, in his situation, I wasn't, admittedly, I wasn't like super involved.
Yeah.
You know, it was, I guess, what you might call it a superficial kind of involvement. You know, it's not like I sat there and, you know, like women do, and, you know, spoke to him for hours. It was, you know, I'd just bump into him out in the surf and have a bit of a chat, and see him in the car park and have a bit of a chat to him.
That's not superficial.
Well, what I'm saying is that, you know, we really didn't get too deep into, you know, the whole, you know, his whole sort of psychological journey.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think just, you know, I think in that situation, from his perspective, he is talking to somebody who's 3-4 years down the track.
Yeah, exactly.
And from his perspective, he's what he's seeing is that it's possible.
Yeah, that's actually very supportive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah,
possible to
yeah,
pop out the other end and still have a smile on your face. You know,
absolutely.
which for him is probably evidence enough that,
Yeah,
okay, I can do this.
yeah. And those times would have been so valuable for him, right? Because it would have given him hope and insight as
I think so.
well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah,
Yeah, because it wasn't long. It wasn't long after. I think he might have only been a couple of years behind me, 2 or 3 years.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
so um,
That's so awesome that you were there for him. That's very
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it
That's
was it was it was pretty cool to sort of meet his new partner the
yeah,
other day. It was only a couple of weeks ago, actually.
yeah,
I think they only just got married, and yeah, so that was pretty cool.
yeah. And seeing him like happy and thriving, and especially when you've seen someone go through that journey, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's awesome. How have you found that, like, obviously, what a journey to go through, like massive. How has that helped you, even as, within your business or with your clients or with, other areas of your life? Because, that builds huge amount of formidable resilience right there.
Look, I think it's helped me. I think it just gives you perspective.
Yeah,
You know, you once you've it's just that classic. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Once you've experienced something like that, then some other drama happens, and you've just got just a different perspective on it.
yeah,
You understand the true gravity of things, because people catastrophize. Like something. And I think the term is absolute thinking.
yeah,
It's like those people where something happened at the start of the day, and maybe they backed into someone, or they missed an appointment or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and then the whole day is buggered.
yeah,
It's like, whereas that thing only lasted for like 2 minutes,
yeah.
but you infected the entire day with the drama
And
from that.
probably other people as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's like, well, one thing happens, and then you know everything's fucked.
yeah,
It's like, no, it's not. It's just one thing.
yeah,
It's like, if you really think about it, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going well.
yeah,
And there's the whole 5-minute recovery. It's like, okay, well, this thing's not good.
yeah,
What else is going on in my life that's good?
yeah,
Well, got a wonderful partner. My kids are healthy. I live in a house that doesn't leak.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Power. I've got hot water. I've
yeah,
got, parents that are supportive and that love me. And, suddenly it's like, oh, maybe things aren't so bad.
yeah. I even bring it right even down to the fact that, well, you can walk, you can eat fine, you can do
Yeah,
daily functions in your life. There's
yeah,
this like so many blessings, right, that people just take for granted.
yeah. You woke up.
Yeah,
Like I have a client who he had a massive. He went out for a run. Healthy guy,
yeah,
same age as me.
yeah,
Went out for a run and had a massive heart attack and died.
yeah,
Gone.
yeah, just like that.
One of the most loved guys,
Yeah,
and just an absolute champion.
yeah,
He was my relationship with him. He was a client, but so many of the people that I knew him as a friend.
yeah,
It was just devastating.
yeah,
So just waking up.
yeah, big time. Yeah,
Waking up every morning and being able to get out of bed.
yeah. And know that there's possibilities and opportunities in that day, and you can be open to them and create them,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Because something happens, and I'll never forget it. It was actually a Wayne Dyer quote, where he says, "If you get bitten by a snake,
yeah,
and let's just say it's a venomous snake, right? If you get bitten by a snake, the the bite is just a bite.
Yeah.
It's the venom that you carry around with you
Yeah.
that kills you.
Yeah.
So someone, so there could be it could be a slight, someone's said something nasty, or they've, done the wrong thing by you.
Yeah.
Well, that's the equivalent of the bite,
Yes.
but it's how you process that
Yeah.
that brings you down.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Because the event is just an event.
Yeah.
It's a moment in time, or a 15 minutes or 5 minutes in time, probably not even that.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was just a moment in time, and that time's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like gone. It's over there.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's what we carry around with us that
Yes.
messes us up.
Yeah.
Like I bumped into. In fact, she sent me a message, and she was from school, and she got a hard time at school, but I don't remember it as being like really. I don't remember it as being really vindictive or horrible, but then again, I wasn't her.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But she told me that and she got a hard time because she was very attractive. Like, she was, beautiful, and she had really big boobs,
Yeah.
and she copped a hard time
Yeah.
because, guys were attracted to her, and 30, 40 years down the track,
Yeah.
had like 3 boob reductions, and suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder
Yeah.
from, maybe a handful of years at school.
Yeah.
Still suffering from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt so sad because, she was smart. Well, she is smart.
Yeah.
She is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I felt, and thankfully she said to me, like, I don't remember you being mean to me.
You're my
Because I thought, oh God, what's this?
Yeah.
And I literally wrote back, I'm so glad that you remembered it like that.
Yeah.
So, because, revisionist history, we can make all sorts of shit up.
Yeah.
She said, no, you weren't mean. She said, you used to laugh sometimes, but you weren't mean. She said, you were really kind. And I said,
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember it like that. But it's a classic example of something happens and we can just take that with us. We can carry that venom around for years and years.
Yeah.
In this case, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And that's the number one defining thing in her entire life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just relates to a couple of stupid years at school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so true. Hey, I know that you have to go in a sec. I
do.
Is it?
I do.
Yeah, in a few minutes' time.
I do. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to have to do a part 2. So,
okay.
But
I'm happy for that.
That's awesome. Before you go, just like let people know. Like, I'll actually include links to, the links that you provided to me to have a read and so forth.
Yep.
In the post. But where can people get hold of you if they'd like to reach out to you?
They can check out the blog that I wrote if they want to look at the actual the process, and if you want to find me professionally, so for coaching or sales stuff, or helping with business development and strategy in your business, the best thing you can do is just to type in John Blake Sales into Google, and I will come up.
Awesome. That's nice and easy.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Fantastic. Oh, well, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been awesome.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to next time. It will be great. Thank you. That was lots of gold in there, big time. That's fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, big hugs. Have a good one.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, see ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, beautiful man. If you're going through stress, need insight, direction to lighten the load, brother, and support during these challenging times, reach out to me. It's no secret that there are so many men suffering at the moment, amazing men, and they're so keen to get help, but don't know what that looks like. So I've created a 6-week one-to-one resilience coaching package for men with one-to-one coaching calls and support via Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp in between calls to help put yourself back in the driver's seat of life. And there's a strong level of trust that goes hand in hand with walking by someone's side during their challenges and their celebrations too. And that's what I'm here for, brother. So message me and let's find your path to true resilience.